The average person has anywhere from 4,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. That disparity shows how much we don't know about thoughts. Overthinking is closely tied to depression and anxiety. And I think the reason why.
So where is that line between planning and overthinking?
This is a great question. So
For people that say that they have imposter syndrome, what are the things that they can do to solve that?
there are three things that you can do to help yourself if you feel like you are an imposter or you have imposter syndrome.
Hey, Lyndsey, thanks for joining. I just wanted to say, here from Canada, it's great to have you join. Where are you coming from?
I'm in Philadelphia, right where Rocky used to run down the street.
Oh, that's
I
amazing.
think they would throw vegetables to him and he would eat the vegetables as he was running, if I remember correctly.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, it sounds like you've been pretty busy because you started out with tech. While in tech, you were teaching your team about emotional intelligence, and then you snowballed that into writing Overthink. So how did you go from tech to where you are now?
So I was working in tech. I was managing contracts departments and deal desk and go-to-market planning in the sales operations team. And I always had a love of psychology. So I would be managing negotiating contracts during the day. And then at night, I would go home and read about psychology and research psychology. And I did this for years. And I helped work through some of my own mental health difficulties. And I noticed the power of thoughts. And I just got so immersed in thoughts and learning about thoughts. I find that absolutely fascinating. So during COVID, while people were making banana bread and finding different things that they like, I started getting certifications in different cognitive techniques and emotional intelligence. And then when I went back to work, I started teaching emotional intelligence to my direct team. And then HR asked me to teach it company wide. And I realized how much I love it. So I'm a contracts nerd at heart. I love talking about contracts and data privacy law. I know that sounds weird, but I love it so much. And I love standardized operating procedures, but my calling is to help people learn to manage their thoughts. So I got laid off. I was expecting the layoff because I worked in operations, so it wasn't a shock. They actually told me I handled it with grace. I'm like, yeah, guys, because I've been expecting this since November. It's February. I was surprised it took this long. And then I decided I was going to do it. I was going to start my company. So I started the Thought Method Company, which is a thought-based approach to personal development and mental wellness. And then now I use my experience working in tech and working in a corporate environment to help people manage their thoughts so then they can improve their position within their corporate environment. And also in your life, when you focus on your thoughts, it affects every aspect of your life.
Yeah, that's amazing because overthinking is really prevalent. I mean, research suggests that 73% of people between 25 and 35 are chronic overthinkers. So, I mean, hitting on that topic is going to help a lot of people.
Yes.
Are people then naturally overthinkers?
No, you have been taught to quote unquote overthink, or it's a lack of training. Depends on how you want to see it. So it's a lack of thought management because you weren't taught how to manage and control your thoughts. The average person has anywhere from 4,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. That disparity shows how much we don't know about thoughts. And people do not know how many thoughts you have per day. But you're having these thoughts constantly going on in your mind, and you haven't been learned how to manage or control them. So then they're running wild. And that's how we get to quote unquote overthinking. There is no such thing as quote unquote overthinking. That's why I'll continually say quote unquote overthinking. If you Google the term overthink, you'll see that it originally meant to contemplate something. So you're just thinking something over. Like if your friend says, hey, do you want to go do XYZ on Friday night? You'll be like, oh yeah, let me overthink that. Let me think it over before you give an answer. And it wasn't until 1992, you'll see the term overthink was rarely, if ever, used because people would just say, let me think about it. In 1992, it upshot from barely being used to 160% increase in popularity to where we are now, 2024. And the reasoning is someone took the definition somehow, it got rebranded to reduce it to singular words, so over and think, use over as too much, combine it back, and then now it has this new definition of thinking too much. But there's no thinking too much. you're never thinking too much. You're just thinking in a way that's not productive or helpful for where you are in your current moment. And the ironic and unfortunate thing is that calling it overthinking is hurting people because it's getting them stuck. It's almost dismissive, or it is dismissive, because if you say you have an issue at work and you're trying to focus on something and you go to your spouse or a colleague and you say, this happened, I'm not sure what to do, and then they tell you, oh, you're overthinking it. Well, because you're judging your thoughts on an over under scale, you're getting stuck. And the only thing you can do is stop thinking. You might start beating yourself up over it. Oh, yeah, I guess I am overthinking it. And then you're focused on not thinking about it. But we think about the things that we don't want to think about, even though we don't want to think about them. For instance, if I say, don't think of something red, you're going to think of something red. And it's going to make you think more. And you're just going to get stuck and then frustrated. But if you went to your spouse or your colleague and you said, like, I keep thinking about this and I'm focusing on it, and they said, oh, you're just not thinking about it productively, what's a better way to think about it, or what's a easier way to find a solution, or what's a more solution focused perspective, then you won't get stuck in this circle of thoughts. So the term overthinking is kind of just feeding the obsessive thoughts, and it's getting people stuck, and they're not building self-awareness, and they're not managing their thoughts, and it's contributing to what I think the mental health crisis today. Overthinking is closely tied to depression and anxiety, and I think the reason why is because people are just getting stuck in their thought instead of using it to their advantage.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I wanted to ask though, is there any positive side to overthinking? I mean, there's definitely a lot of negatives, but is there a positive side to overthinking?
There is, because you acknowledging that you are quote unquote overthinking is you acknowledging your unproductive thoughts. It's you acknowledging that you are not managing your thoughts productively. And then it gives you the opportunity to manage your thoughts productively. And you acknowledging that you're not thinking productively is self awareness, but you're getting stuck and you're not able to build that incredible skill of self awareness that is going to get you so far in life because you're getting stuck on judging your thoughts. But when you acknowledge, oh, I'm just not thinking productively, then you can start focusing on managing and controlling your thoughts, and you are going to be further ahead than the majority of people. Your thoughts are more important than anything else, than money, than time. They influence how you spend your money and your time. So when I say, like, you are the most powerful person in the room when you can learn how to manage and control your thoughts.
So what are some of the reasons that people overthink?
A lack of education. It's an indication of a lack of mental health education. It's an indication that you have not been taught how to manage your thoughts. And then, unfortunately, and this is something that I can feel like tears swelling up because it gets me really upset, that people will end up beating themselves up for not knowing what they don't know, for not knowing what they haven't been taught. And then that gets them stuck. People focus internally. They're like, I can't stop thinking about, they think they can't stop thinking about it when they have the power to do that. If they just learned how to do it, they can. They have more power and control than they think, but it's almost like a learned helplessness. And then they're getting stuck, and then they're beating up on themselves because they have a lack of self-compassion, because they haven't been taught how to be compassionate towards themselves, and sometimes, unfortunately, towards others. And then it's just feeding this negative cycle. So the whole reason why we're doing this is simply a lack of education, and then it's being fueled by society that does not encourage us to focus and manage our thoughts, and we're more being encouraged to label ourselves as broken and think that things are hopeless when you have more power than you know. Even with concepts like confidence, like, people are naturally born with the ability to build confidence, they just haven't been taught. And then someone who isn't confident can beat up on themselves and think, I'll never be confident. No, you just need to learn how to be confident, and the way to do that is to do uncomfortable things. But we're in the society that prioritizes luxury and comfort, that people don't want to do uncomfortable things, but you need to get comfortable doing and being uncomfortable in order to grow. And we're not prioritizing that growth mindset. And that's what's getting people stuck.
So for people that say that they have imposter syndrome, what are the things that they can do to solve that?
Yes. So imposter syndrome is just simply misidentified confident and lack of confidence, lack of skill, or lack of experience. And there are three things that you can do to help yourself if you feel like you are an imposter or you have imposter syndrome. First, imposter syndrome would look like feeling that you do not deserve the job that you have because you can't do as well as other people. And what you want to do, the first thing you want to do is you want to change that perspective. First of all, you got hired for that job for a reason. The person hiring you knows how to do their job. If they didn't, that if you're an imposter, that means that they're an imposter because they hired you. So then is their boss an imposter? Is their boss's boss an imposter? Is their boss's boss's boss the imposter? How far up the line does it go? Like, that's just silliness. So you want to change your perspective and you want to acknowledge that you're here for a reason. You got here for a reason. And even if you just got lucky, you're still here. So you need to take the opportunity and you need to work and focus on making it the best that it can be. And you want to have the perspective that you're new to this. I'm new to this. I've never been in this room before. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't control how people are going to respond, but I'm going to do the best that I can do. And the more that I work at it, the better I'm going to be at it. For instance, I did a TEDx talk recently. It was my first time speaking on a stage. It was, oh my goodness, like ripe for quote unquote imposter syndrome. So I decided that I would feel more comfortable going to where the stage was and practicing. And so I did. And I stood in the room and I felt the energy of the room. And that made me feel more confident and comfortable. And that is actually leading us into the second thing you can do. So the first thing, you want to change your perspective. You want to realize you're there for a reason. You want to realize that imposter syndrome, quote unquote, imposter syndrome is just a lack of confidence. And then a fear of wanting to do well, but not knowing how things are going to turn out because you've never been in this situation before. And then the second thing you want to do is focus on what you can, cannot, and can somewhat control. So if you're giving a speech, say to a board of directors, you can't control how people are going to respond, but you can control how well practiced you are. You can somewhat control how people are going to perceive you by what you wear, shoulders back. You can smile when you go in, and you want to just focus on what you can, cannot, and can somewhat control. And it's actually really fun. Like, I've been in rooms where I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if I can get a standing ovation. Let's just see. And you go like this to see if you can get a standing ovation. I'm going to try that soon with the TED Talk. I did not, because I was the first person. So I thought it'd be silly to try and get a standing O when you're the first person. But you want to have fun with it, and you want to acknowledge, like, I'm new to this. This is something that I'm just trying out. I don't have confidence here because I've never been in this room before, but I can control if I'm in the room, because maybe if I have the opportunity to go and test it out. For the TED Talk, I did it 3 times on that stage before I actually did it in front of people. I would walk there and just go and stand on the stage and practice. And one time there were people there after an event, and they sat with me and they like clapped and everything. It was so cute. And then the third thing you want to do is what we used to call in tech, it's called crawl, walk, run. You want to acknowledge that if you've never done something before, you can't just go and being perfect at it. You got to crawl, walk, run. It's annoying because we like being perfect at everything, but the messy stuff is the fun stuff. That's where you're going to learn. And you need to be excited about the experience of learning and growing instead of thinking you need to get it perfect the first time. Because when you do that, you take that pressure away from yourself. You're not thinking about how you're an imposter. You're thinking about how you can do it the best that you can. And that's where I love the affirmation, like, I'm new to this. You just think, I'm new to this. All right, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm new to this. I'm new to this. I'm new to this. Ah! And you want to turn that worry and anxiety into excitement, because a lot of the times when we're anxious about something, it is because we're simply just super excited about it.
Yep. No, I 100% agree with that. I've been in that position 100 times. Now, the one thing that eats away at me, and I think maybe a lot of other people would relate to this, is imposter syndrome can sometimes be led by reliving past events. So are there ways that people can get out of a scenario where the past events are triggering imposter syndrome?
So there's a reason why. And again, it's all about perspective and control. You just need to remind yourself that you have been taught almost a learned helplessness when it comes to your thoughts. You have more control than like. If I have a thought I don't like when I was about going to do the TED talk, I kept thinking, "You're going to mess up. You're going to do this." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't like that thought. Give me something better." And like, you're allowed to ask your brain, and you're allowed to judge your thoughts not on an over under scale, but how much they're helping you. And then when I was actually doing the talk, I was thinking, "Shine, shine." I'm like, "Oh, I love this. I feel so good." I had to stop myself from smiling so much. I was so excited. So you need to know that you can control your thoughts. That's the number one thing. You have more control than you think or you have been led to believe. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness of your thoughts. Your thoughts are meant to work for you, and you need to make sure that you are effectively allocating your number one resource, which is your thoughts. In a business, you're making sure you're effectively allocating resources. Why are you not doing it to yourself? I consider myself, I'm the CEO of Lyndsey Getty Inc. My thoughts are my greatest resource. I actually have been debating writing a book about that. To help either, yeah, I think it'll be fun. I need like a cute little name for it. And with rumination, which is when you get stuck in the past and you're thinking about something on repeat, which is different than quote unquote overthinking. Overthinking is towards the future, rumination is towards the past. In my personal research, I found the majority of people think towards the future. But we do get stuck thinking towards the past, and you might be beating yourself up over it. I used to do it as well. And I ended up coming up with a three-step technique while I was unable to sleep at night because I was thinking about something that I did and it was going over and over in my mind. So, what you want to do instead of ruminate, you want to swap that out with reflection. Rumination is when you look towards the past and you're just going around in the circles, thinking about, oh, I wish I didn't do that. And you're beating yourself up. You might be calling yourself names because we have been taught to be bullies to ourselves and to others, unfortunately. And what you want to do instead is you want to reflect. Reflection is an intentional looking back on the past in order to gain data and insights so you can make the best actions in the future that are going to align with your goals. I consider it like the past is dead. You're a vulture. You're going, you're ransacking that place. You're getting what you can from it, and then you're leaving it. And then I'll do that with reflection. And then something will come up like, oh, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, oh, honey, like we already ransacked that place. There's nothing of value there for me. Why am I thinking about this? And then I just move on. Again, you have more control than you think. And there's a three-step process that can help you with reflection. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go back to what you cannot, and can somewhat control. So say you say something in a meeting and it wasn't well received. And now you're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I messed up. And people didn't really receive it well, like I intended. What can I control? Well, you can write an email if you really feel like you need to and say, hey, I'm sorry that this came off this way. My intention was XYZ. How can we move forward in the future? And then you also want to focus on that time when you were in the meeting. You can't control how people respond. You can't control what you say. You can't control situational things either. If your mic cut off, maybe if you had like a burger that didn't work well with your gastrointestinal system before and you farted. You can't control that. So you want to separate into what you cannot, and can somewhat control. And then you want to dismiss the stuff that you can't control. You want to accept, I cannot control that. And then you want to focus on what you can control and go to the next section of it, part two. So the second step is your action items. What can you control now? Do you need to apologize? Going back to writing that email, do you need to clarify something? Do you need to just focus on maybe practicing more the next time you give a speech to be more prepared? Like, what in that situation can you do now? What actionable step can you take so that situation doesn't happen again? And then the third step is to focus on what your ideal would be and if your ideal is realistic. So, how would the situation have ideally worked out? If you expect a standing ovation every single time, then your expectations are a little bit too high. So you want to like dim that down a little bit. But if your expectation is that you gave a presentation and people were on board with you and you sold maybe a new product that you're trying to get into the product line or a new procedure that you want people to buy into, and say you're trying to do that and it didn't work, then you would focus on, okay, ideally next time it would work. What can I do? Go back to that actionable step. What can I do? I see a lot of people when they're trying to get buy-in on something and influence people, they're not telling people the positives. In the beginning here, I told people, like, your thoughts are your most important asset. They're going to help you to get people to buy in. Sometimes people don't do that. So you just want to learn how to be better in the future. That really sums up that whole diatribe I just said. You really just want to focus on how you can do better in the future.
Do you think men or women get impacted most when it comes to reflection or ruminating?
So the statistic that you stated earlier, that I think it's like 72, 73% of 25 to 35-year-olds, quote unquote, overthink, is from a book called Women Who Think Too Much. And this is the leading research on quote unquote, overthinking. And I actually made a note of this in my book. So I said, it's Dr. Nolan I cannot say her last name. I said she emphasizes the gender divide in her discussion of overthinking. However, based on my research, I disagree with this notion and believe that quote unquote overthinking is not gender specific. I think quote unquote overthinking or a lack of thought management has more to do with your environment growing up, and if you've been taught how to learn, control, and manage your thoughts. Like if I had children, like they would probably not be quote unquote overthinkers, because when they're kids, I'd be teaching them how to manage their thoughts and we'd be working through the difficult situations. So then it would just be second nature to them.
So where is that line between planning and overthinking?
This is a great question. So, futuristic thinking is imperative. My degree is in organizational leadership, and futuristic thinking is considered one of the primary skills that is consistent with successful CEOs. So, if you're a futuristic thinker, and I actually took a test and I was a futuristic thinker, and my teacher was super excited for me, and I was like, okay, freak. Because I was just like a bratty 20-year-old. I'm like, why is this woman so excited for me? And then now I realize that I'm excited for myself. You want to think towards the future because you want to strategically plan in order to get positive results and to achieve your goals. You don't want to get to the extent where you are getting frozen or stuck and not taking action because you are over planning. You can over engineer things. I've seen this in organizations where teams are quote unquote overthinking. They're just thinking about it in an unproductive way. They're over engineering things. They're having all of these excessive meetings and talking about what we need to do. And we have all of these metrics and this data, and we need to do this because it's slowing down our sales cycle. And we want to reduce the sales cycle from 150 days to 100 days. We have all of our metrics. We know what we want to do, but we just keep talking about it. Action is not happening. And you will intuitively feel that the more that you focus on the positive result, you will intuitively start to feel when you are over engineering something. Or you might even have someone externally tell you, hey, I think it's time for us to take some action. So I wish I could give you like a straight answer here, but it really is just learning and practice and then checking yourself. Am I getting stuck in the logistics, or am I moving forward? And even if it's just a small step forward, contacting someone, getting them in the loop because you need their okay, or you would like them to sponsor what you're doing, like at least be making steps towards it. Don't just get stuck in the planning of it. Kind of like too with the gym too. Like if you want to like work out and you want to lose weight, don't get stuck in like, what am I going to wear? What exercises am I going to do? Just go to the gym.
Yeah, I've always heard the term analysis paralysis, and
Mhm.
I've been stuck in that. And I really do think that ties in with overthinking, because perfectionism is sometimes your worst enemy, right? You just want to get in there and create the habit. I've heard of mindfulness, practice mindfulness. So would that be meditation? What would mindfulness mean to you?
So mindfulness is wonderful and it can help you learn to manage your thoughts. Mindfulness is part of something that people commonly tell us to try when we are trying to manage our thoughts. So we'll do like mindfulness, yoga, working out. All of those methods are great, but they are secondary methods. And that is why I believe the mental health crisis is where it's at, because we are getting secondary methods when our primary method is to focus on our thoughts. And you need to focus on restructuring your thoughts and gaining new perspectives. Mindfulness can help you learn how to manage and structure your thoughts, but they are secondary methods. So you don't want to solely rely on them, but they are helpful. And one of my favorite mindfulness techniques that helped me in the very beginning when I was having a lot of trouble. I mean, I am a consummate, I'm the expert I'm like the OG overthinker. Now it's weird. I'll be like, "Ugh, I'm not thinking anything at all. I feel a little uncomfortable." And then I'll just like hum a tune or listen to classical music because I like need to hear something. And what I would do is I would walk in a park and I don't know if Ram Dass came up with this or if it's before him. He's a mindfulness teacher, a coach. Uh, he wrote this wonderful book, How Can I Help? It's amazing. It's just beautiful. And he advocates for imagining that your thoughts are leaves and they're falling from trees and then floating into a river and like floating away. And at that point in time, I lived near Valley Forge Park, and I would go to the park, and in the fall, I would see the leaves falling, and I would just imagine that they're my thoughts, and then they're floating away. And that was helping me to get out of the constant cycle of thoughts and clear my mind. You can also meditate. Meditation people get it wrong a lot. They think that they need to completely clear their mind. No, you just want to slow it down. There's a Ray LaMontagne song called Be Here Now. I'll play that song and he just says like be here now. It's very calming and soothing. And I'm like, I'm here now. I'm here now. And people think that if you're doing mindfulness, that you're like wearing Jesus sandals and you're like peace, love, and happiness. Sometimes I'm like, I wanted to flip a fucking table and tell someone to pound sand today. So I'm going to go meditate before I do something that I'm going to regret. And then I'll be like, be here now. I'm here now. Like, you don't need to be 100% zen all the time. That's all or nothing thinking, a cognitive distortion. It's your thoughts on control because you weren't taught how to manage them. So you don't have to be this perfect zen individual and walk around with peace, love, and happiness all the time. You're allowed to be frustrated. And then you just want to calm your thoughts. You went, okay, there's nothing I can do in this moment. What can I control? I can control myself. I can control my thoughts. I can control my actions. I'm going to just sit here. You can focus on breathing in and out. You can focus on what expands, contracts. That's a good one too. So I highly recommend mindfulness, meditation, different things like that. But you need to acknowledge that they're the secondary methods. The primary is controlling your thoughts, and then you lean on those when you're having trouble controlling your thoughts. In the beginning, when you're learning to control, you're going to lean on them a lot more. Now, I meditate, like I'll be walking down the street and I'm like meditating in my mind. I'm just like not even there. It used to take me a while to get there. Now I can meditate like probably right now.
Impressive. Impressive.
Yeah. And you build up that skill. It's just something that you build up. So in the beginning, just have self-compassion. Remind yourself constantly, I am new to this. No one expects you to be perfect. I'm new to this. Perfection feels good because that comes with control. And control feels good because then we feel like we are our environment, like everything is good, we're safe. You need to acknowledge that there's not much that you can control. And when you release that, then you will control your thoughts and you will be able to manage your situations better. It's all of this is super counterintuitive at first.
On the more clinical side, I've heard the term cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
So there are some techniques there. What are your thoughts on this? Is it good? Is it bad?
Yes. So cognitive is simply a fancy word for thoughts. So it's just your thought behavioral therapy. So how your thoughts are working. It's simply just managing your thoughts. And there's different kinds of behavioral therapy. So there's dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy. They're all very similar and intertwined together. CBT is what when I first went to therapy after fighting it because I thought I was so tough I didn't need therapy, and I'm not depressed. After, after I went, I finally asked her after a couple sessions, like, what is this? And she said CBT. And that's what I started reading about. And the founder of CBT, Aaron T. Beck, he's like the most adorable man. He died at 101 years old. And I just regret that I was not able to meet this man because he just looks like the kindest soul. And CBT is really focusing on your thoughts and restructuring your thoughts. You haven't been taught how to structure your thoughts. There's a lot of negativity in this world. You pick it up, and then CBT is helping you to restructure that. So I advocate for looking into CBT, even like DBT, RABT, just looking into different cognitive techniques and finding what works for you. The thing that worked for me won't work for everyone. because we're all at different places and we need to find what resonates with us. So I would highly recommend looking into CBT, but then also different other avenues.
Perfect. Lyndsey, this has been eye-opening. I have to say, this is amazing. Where can people reach you?
Yes, I'm going to do my little plug. So when you were asking about CBT, I would say you could do everything here. So this is a decade of research. I am in remission for PTSD, depression, and anxiety by doing all of this research and learning how to manage my thoughts. And I put everything into 2,500 words in 8th grade reading level to help you. There is some CBT in here, but then there's also original methods that I came up with to make it more easily approachable. So this Overthink is on Amazon, and then people can reach me at Thought Method. So thoughtmethod.com, at Thought Method on TikTok, on Instagram. My email is hello@thoughtmethod. So yeah, anything Thought Method. I got everything. I wanted the whole brand.
What I can do is I'll put them in the description so people can click on them easily, be able to find you. So
Yes, thank you.
yeah, no problem. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.